That's me, Leo Carrillo, 77. I'd like to welcome you to the funeral for my career. I've been a commercial photographer my entire adult life, and today I'd like to have a proper eulogy for Kodak, courage, and a moment of silence. That's my family. I was born in Chicago, moved to LA in 63 and the Valley in 65. And three significant things happened when I lived there. They passed the Civil Rights Act, they landed on the moon, and they passed Title IX. So I want you to think in my lifetime, a man of color could not vote in certain parts of this country. A woman couldn't get a credit card without the written approval of her husband or her father. And Buzz Aldrin, with a Hasselblad and Kodak film, stood on the moon and shot a picture of the man, Neil Armstrong. And at that moment, in my mind, Kodak Courage was born. Now, if you did what I did for a living, we were kind of like Buzz. We weren't the man, but we were the lucky mother effers they sent to the moon to stand behind the camera. And I want to talk about that time of discovery and adventure. So for me, it started in high school like everybody else. Canon AE1 was my first camera. I was a terrible student, and my parents sent me to Washington State, where I majored in skiing. That was one of my professors. But surfing and skiing, learning to shoot in that environment really did serve me well in my commercial work. There were certain things about surfing, learning to go with the flow and that feeling, and the beauty of it and capturing that, is something that I think to this day I still draw on. So these are a bunch of images that I shot really early in my career. And then after I got out of Art Center, I started to work on clients that really don't exist for today's uh, people. We had magazines, we paid about $350 a day, and had great budgets and really good talent. And they sent me on these adventures and had access to celebrities. And like I shot these two P51s. So they paid you well and you shot exciting work. But the backbone of my first beginning of my career was these movie posters, pre-sales, and video game boxes that we made for literally unwatchable films. But video stores had first opened up, and the big players didn't want anything to do with it. And guys like me and these little shops like Kaiser Communication, we would just churn out some pretty slick work. And I did lots and lots of these uh, no-name movies. Some of them made and some of them not made. Then through skiing, some of my friends got real jobs and worked for big companies. I was there for the birth of Nikon sunglasses. So all this kind of work, I think the small manufacturing work is still there, but the magazine work was just an incredible amount of discovery. Uh, Also early in my career, there were certain backbone clients that you had. I worked for Ski Tote, Snow Summit, which was my favorite and most spectacular client. And I also worked for industrial companies, and I shot these testing equipment. And then I gave away my work to these brand new snowboard companies that had just been invented or whatever. The birth of snowboarding was happening. So in my era, we had these backbone clients like Snow Summit. They would pay me a good amount of money every year. So I was able to start sending out promotional material, fancy postcards. And this is some of this work is from Art Center, and some of it is early jobs, like the golfer is from the PGA when I first started. The skater is from Kaiser Communications, and that won a bunch of awards. And then, of course, the skiing is from Snow Summit, which ended up being a long-term financial, financially stabilizing client, let's say. Also, in the time, there was all this magazine work available that was very creative. And again, you had access. I probably got paid a couple $100 to shoot David Lynch. And also there was clients in Los Angeles. There was, manufacturing. And so K-Swiss wasn't Nike, but they gave me steady work. And I shot like the last guy on the bench at in an NBA team. And then every once in a while, I would get good jobs like Dockers. Dockers would pay about 2 grand a day, and that was a good gig. But let's get back to Kodak Courage and high impact photography. This is a picture that I shot in high school, and this is the definition of Kodak Courage. And what's interesting about this picture is Kodak Courage is on both sides of the camera. I climbed way up on the side of the hill just to get the right light. I knew this in high school somehow. And then all these years later, I shot this impactful cover of Jeff Holden. And if you look at that cover closely, it's almost the same as this jump. And the magic of photography is people got brave and they did things that they normally wouldn't do. And you're not going to believe me when I tell you this, but I probably printed up 15 or 20 of these different images. This is a 16 by 20 print. And every one of the guys that I gave them to still cherishes that moment, like our moonwalk. And I was Buzz Aldrin. I jumped off that too, just like everybody else. There isn't a picture of me. That's Donardo, and we looked like brothers, so it's damn close. But if you've never stepped off a cliff, it's the most amazing feeling. And those things that you capture lasted a lifetime, and you become a historian. But the magic of the camera and the Kodak moment and Kodak courage is you become an unwitting historian to life and all the different things that happen. I shot this in high school. The hosts are Howard Cosell, Suzanne Summers, and Bruce Jenner. And now goes to the copying cars that I go to. And what's really interesting is you can just see the history there, and I was there to witness it. But what's most amazing about the camera at this time, the world was really big and not connected. And if you could operate a camera, it would open doors for you. And if I told you I had lunch with Jimmy Walker, who was one of the biggest stars on TV in high school, he invited me to the Comedy Store. I snuck in the back door with my date because it was an over 21 club and still is. And I saw Robin Williams debut their main room when I was in high school. And it's all from being able to operate the camera. Now, I know today a camera doesn't open up doors like it used to, but it was like a Jedi mind trick. You'd wave that thing and people would lose their mind and they would let you do anything. So Kodak Courage was the people like me, the Buzz Aldrins behind the camera, that you put yourself in a spot to get the right shot. But also all my friends who lost brain cells and became idiots, and all the famous people that would do goofy things. Dr. Toyota that ran Toyota Motor Company jumped for me because it was, oh, what a feeling time. So, yeah, it was a really good journey. I feel like it was a magic carpet ride, and I want to tell stories about all these adventures. So, if I told you in high school that I saw Robin Williams start, and for a half a day, Jimmy Walker was my friend, and I thought that was pretty cool. And that's all I got to say today.